Carl Jung said, "Awaken and shine your light for others to follow. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is an invitation to move differently in the world, to operate from a place of deep knowing and alignment. I'm Adrienne McDonald, and welcome to the Source Code Podcast. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. I'm sipping on some sparkling water, so go grab yourself a beverage, and let's see what the muse has for us today. I want to talk about shadow work, but I think this is going to be through a different lens than you've heard before. We're going to bring the Gene Keys into this conversation. But first, let's have a baseline. What is shadow work? Well, most of us think about Carl Jung when this subject comes up, as he was really the father of this. It's the exploration and integration of the unconscious parts of our psyche. The shadow is something that's used to describe the parts of us that we choose to reject or repress. And these can include negative traits like anger and envy and greed. And that's generally what's focused on, is the negative. However, it also can be positive qualities that really don't fit with how we see ourselves. What is interesting to me, however, is that when people talk about shadow work, particularly, I guess, in the personal development field or in some spirituality communities, there is this sort of inference that integration means that the shadow goes away. And that is not accurate at all. The shadow never goes away. It is with us all the time. Now, this year I've been talking more on the podcast about human design and a little bit about Gene Keys. It's been in the background of the work that I do with people for a while, and I've just been a little bit more public as I've integrated it more into my work. Same goes for the Gene Keys. And as I've said, human design is like having your own source code, the architecture plan of you. To me, Gene Keys takes this a little deeper. And I feel like it's a great way to look at and work with shadow. Now, prior to developing the Gene Keys, Richard studied with the human design founder, Ra, for many years, and I sort of look at them as like sister modalities. It's also based on your birth information as well, which I know it's funny because I sort of cocked my head aside when I first heard that, but it is amazing to me how dead on these tools are, and how insightful they are, and how very useful they are in modern day-to-day life. So, looking at your Gene Keys profile, which I will put a link in the show notes how to acquire that if you have not already. In each sphere of your profile, you will see a number. Just like in human design, there are 64 options there. The number represents your unique gene key for that sphere. Each gene key also has 3 components. It has a shadow, which is a challenge for you to overcome, your gift, which is a creative attribute, and your siddhi, which is a transcendent realization. Now, Richard says that we can awaken these higher components of these gene keys, meaning the gift or the siddhi, by contemplating them over time, and preferably in sequence. You're also going to see a line keynote, which is a small number after the dot, which describes a deeper aspect of how the gene key may show up in your life. Now, these numbers have themes. I'm not really going to talk about the dot, like the number after the dot today, but I might give some examples a little later on. When you look at your Gene Key profile, you're going to see that it's made up of a grid of circles or spheres. Each of these 11 spheres represent an aspect of your life that you can contemplate. The Gene Keys invites us to sort of go through and embody the gifts and, as much as we can, the cities that are in these spheres. So at the beginning of any Gene Keys journey, what Richard wants people to take into consideration is this is a contemplation exercise. So the thought process is that the contemplation will enable you to take full responsibility for your inner state, and by using everyday challenges for growth and transformation. So it's contemplation, it's inquiry, asking those introspective questions and then inviting wisdom to come from within so that you can cultivate a sense of calm presence in all situations. One of the reasons why I love this is because it's about you asking yourself the introspective questions and the wisdom's coming from you. This is all about deriving agency to you, not a guru. And, you want to be gentle, especially if you're considering shadow work, and having a lot of patience, because this is one of those the modalities that you're not going to take and go, okay, there's 5 steps here, and I should be able to knock these out over the weekend. This is, every time I go through the sequences, I uncover something new. And I've been doing this for a while now. And the same goes for human design. Now, there are 3 sequences. There is the activation sequence, the Venus sequence, and the Pearl sequence. And the activation sequence is the simplest one. It's usually where people start. It's all about your prime gifts, and it's very focused on your purpose, discovering your purpose. And then there is the Venus sequence, which is the most complex of the 3 sequences. It has 6 spheres, whereas like the activation sequence has 4. In Venus, you are really getting into the heart of, no pun intended, of the spheres in your emotional life. It's all about relationships and emotions and patterns in that area. And then there is the Pearl sequence, which is about releasing your prosperity. And this is the one that when people look at this, they go, oh, can I just jump to that? Because they see the word prosperity. It's like, hey, let me just go there. However, you really have to go through, think about things in order, going down these paths, because the idea is by the time you reach the Pearl that there's been so much work done that you understand what your emotional patterns are. You've accepted them. They are more integrated at a higher, the gift, operating in the gift versus operating in the shadow. And the clarity is there. The clarity with relationships, the clarity with your purpose is there. And then that's what's naturally going to attract more opportunities. So, and I think that really at the core of the Pearl, at that end, which is at the end of the sequence path, it's about clarifying how you serve the collective versus just serve yourself. So that it sort of brings everything together. So when you look at this, even though people want to jump straight to the Pearl sequence when they hear the word prosperity, you can see why that doesn't make a lot of sense when you're looking at this holistically. And some people just look at activation and they don't go any further than that. I mean, it just depends on where you feel drawn to. And especially as I found that when people are working with human design and the Gene Keys, it's a little bit more of a back and forth thing. People will go and just pick a particular thing out of their human design and said, okay, let me just go look at what this Gene Key is. So realistically, people start with the activation sequence because that's the same thing as an incarnation cross on your human design. So people have that natural bridge of let me just go a little deeper here if they're familiar with human design. This is where your genius lives. It's where your purpose is. And a lot of people are drawn just to that. You've got your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose. And keep in mind, gene keys aren't literal. This is more about insight into your being. Think in terms of archetypes. I'll give you an example. My purpose is the 17. Now, in human design, that gate is known as the powerful opinion. And this is another reason why I like to look at the gene keys alongside of human design, because when I looked at the 17, I said, okay, well, what the powerful opinion, what does that mean, really? Well, in the gene keys, the shadow is opinion. The gift is in farsightedness, and the city is omniscience. Now, from a practical application standpoint, I do have a very extraordinary gift about seeing things a lot of people don't. I see patterns. I even see energetic patterns that others can't see. I can zero in on things. And when you look at my human design profile, I'm a 3-5, which is all about experimentation, and I'm a problem solver. Well, you can see where that starts to weave together. This is what I was most known for in my corporate career: creative, fast solutions that others could not figure out, or hey, can you take this mess and make something of it, right? And in a way, that's what I'm known for in my practice now. Like, it's the people they come to me generally have worked with other people, and they're like, I'm just missing something, and they can't see it. And I can zero in on things, right? Because I'm looking at so many sides. It's like, oh, here's the entry point right here. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk much about the lines and gene keys, but let's give you an example. In the gene keys in my life's work, I had the 17.3. So the 3 has the archetype. I said that the numbers behind the dot have themes. The 3 is changer, and that definitely tracks for me as well. I have to be mindful, though, because when we look at the shadow, that opinion, I have to be mindful about not being so stuck in the muck of wanting to be right that I lose sight of seeing all the sides and possibilities, which is the gift, right? That farsightedness. And you see how that works. I can sit there and say, am I operating in the shadow or am I operating in the gift? Now, another insight is, from a human design standpoint, my not self theme is frustration. If I am frustrated, that means I am not in alignment somewhere. Now, I can look at all the shadows in my gene key profile, and every time I do that, at least one of them will stand out and I go, okay, here it is. Here's where I'm not operating in alignment. Here's where the shadow is just saying, hey, here I am. This is something you need to look at. And then I can look at it and go, okay, what do I need to do to shift this so I can operate in the gift? And if I see a pattern, if this thing keeps coming up over and over again, that's the nudge that I need to do some deeper work in that area. So moving along in the activation sequence is your evolution. Now, your evolution is in opposition to your life's work. That's why it's called, part of this is, as you move down, it's the path of the challenge. And together, these two spheres and the gene keys are really the summation of the primary challenge of your life. If you look at the shadow of the gene key of your evolution, it's going to very likely represent a very uncomfortable place for you. And I can confirm that is very, very true. The shadow in my evolution is it's judgment, right? So you can imagine, if you will, when you take the shadow of those two things, when you're taking the shadow of opinion and judgment, you see how that could be very bad. That could be very, very bad. So but when you take the gift of, being farsightedness and being able to look at other people's opinions, and the gift in my evolution is integrity, and operating from a place of, integrity, and that's a whole different dynamic, right? So that is how this starts to work together. But it is something that I have to balance, and I know I have to balance. But I can feel myself when I start to slip into that darker place. I have to remind myself, oh, you know what? We're not doing judgment on this. We're going to move into curiosity. We're going to move into inquiry so that we can ask these different questions, so that I can see a different way of looking at this. And that's very helpful to keep myself out of the shadows. And when we continue down the path, we get to radiance. Now, when you go from evolution to radiance, that is an opportunity for a breakthrough. Richard says that one of the key conditions necessary for a breakthrough is the ability to dwell on our life as it is now, rather than what it has been or what it might be. It's all about the present moment. For most people, the breakthrough is an ongoing process. It is a breaking through that comes and goes as your contemplation deepens. Some breakthroughs are experienced as mental insights. For example, a breakthrough when a pattern of denial suddenly comes to an end. Other breakthroughs seem purely emotional and can lead to intense emotional states and feelings. So, as you're going through this process, you might get I'm breaking a frickin' pattern and cycle. And another time it could be, oh, that's just an aha, right? Don't judge any of it. Just accept it and work with it and think about it and feel it. Now, your radiance dictates, it's all about your health and your vitality. And as Richard puts it, something more nebulous, it's your aura. It's like that glow of your inner essence. Although it can't be seen by the naked eye, people can sense it. Your radiance is like the hidden instrument of your intuition as well. So it's what people like pick up from you, but they sometimes don't have words for. Okay? Now, your last sphere in your activation sequence is your life purpose. Now, this one was really, this one really took me back. Because your life purpose doesn't put us under any pressure to achieve or attain anything. It is about being. It's about resting in who we really are. And if you think about you at your happiest, at your most relaxed state, at your, the ultimate non-stressed, then you will have an idea of what your life may look like through the lens of a higher purpose. When we contemplate the question of our purpose, we often, almost always, just about anybody I talk to, it's we think in terms of what we're here to do. But the doing, when I read this, the doing is only the byproduct of our being. And I think that is one of the most significant, powerful shifts in thinking with working with human design and Gene Keys. The doing is only the byproduct of our being. Purpose is not about what we're here to do. And Richard's, there's a passage that he has, I think it's in the Gene Keys book, it says it's about the quality of our consciousness. When you begin to contemplate the gene key that relates to your purpose, think about it as the aroma of your deepest inner essence. Your true purpose lies beyond your conscious reach, as it lies hidden in your DNA. Your purpose is designed to be unlocked by life. It calls upon you to evolve through your challenges and emerges progressively over the course of your life as you move through breakthrough and transformation. Your purpose has another unique quality. It represents the essence of your humanity, of your beautiful ordinariness, and your love of being alive inside a physical body on the physical plane. It is who you are at your core, is what he's saying. It's nothing. Your life's purpose in this lens is not about doing. That's your life's work. Your life's purpose is about being. Now, this, and I still contemplate this because I always have said that everybody on the earth has the same purpose. It's you're here for the evolution of your soul and to contribute back to humanity. And I think that he depicts this in the life's purpose and the life's work. That it's like the combination of that is what I've been saying for a while. And I really, really like the way he describes that. It's the essence of your humanity. So this gives you a peek into how I have worked with the Gene Keys and how when I'm talking with people, clients in my practice and whatnot, and some of the things, conversations that we have, it's very powerful. One more example. In human design, my Jupiter, which points to prosperity, is 29. And in the Gene Keys, that corresponds to the pearl. And this is why I look at these as sister systems, because I always like a deeper insight. Well, in human design, the 29 gate is called the faithful devotee. And when I looked at that, I was like, okay, I need to go a little deeper here. It gave me more depth when I looked at the 29 gene key, because the shadow is half-heartedness, and the gift is commitment, and the city is devotion. So it was very insightful for me to consider, like, where in my life am I operating in half-heartedness? How has my lack of commitment affected me in my relationships or in my work? You see how that works? Working with both human design and Gene Keys can really take you into a different relationship with shadow work. It's a different lens. And you really can see where, the shadow doesn't really go away. It's always there, but it's your state of consciousness and awareness is, I've slipped back into this. Okay, how do I, where's my awareness so I can shift back into the gift or in the city in some cases. So I hope you have found this episode interesting, perhaps even insightful. Now, you can pull down your free Human Design Source Code chart and report from my website. I've said that for a while now. I will have that link in my show notes. And all of the numbers that are in your chart, the numbers that are on each side of the Human Design chart, you can look up the corresponding gene key for next level depth or any gates that you have defined. Same thing. Now, I will put a link to Richard's Gene Keys website in the show notes as well. You can access a free Gene Keys profile there. I think Richard even has a free introductory video on his sites. I recently wrapped up his Gene Key guide training, and that was incredibly interesting as well. as I continue to integrate this more into my work. As I said last week, I love using these tools in particular because they're about enabling you having more agency in your life. And I mean you specifically, not just here's the 5 steps to get from A to Z. As always, thanks for listening. Would love to hear your feedback. If you found this helpful, please share the episode out. Or if you feel so moved or inclined, you can leave me a review. I always love those as well. If you have any questions or comments, you can find me on social media. DM me. And remember to find beauty every day and seek out the magic in the mundane. Thank you for listening to the Source Code Podcast. If you found this episode insightful and feel moved to, please leave a review and share it out with those you believe will find it helpful. You can check out my website for more information at www.adriannemcdonald.com. And for more of my more regular musings, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. I hope you have a beautiful week.